Uh, college football, man, trotting along. We're in week 7. Your Big Ten West has been fun, but very fun. A lot of questions still. The Hawkeyes, tough loss to Illinois last week. Bielema has got them believing, and they are a threat to win the Big Ten West.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think everybody's weirded out by the fact that, Northwestern, to a certain degree, Iowa and Wisconsin are middle to bottom of the Big Ten West right now. But hey, variety is the spice of life. You got Beetle with his Illini. You got Purdue. You got Minnesota. They're at the top. I refuse to believe Nebraska is actually a contender until I see something.
They are not a contender, and anybody says that is just.
Hey, you don't broadcast in Lincoln or Omaha.
Nope.
Okay, nope. Yeah.
But even if I did, I'd say it right now. They're not a contender. Not this year.
Well, let's start.
You're not a contender.
Well, let's start there if we could. I mean, with that being said, Nebraska at Purdue, Dustin and I joked on our podcast. I mean, that should be a crazy game. I said it reminds me of two 20-year-olds sitting across the table from each other, pounding shots to see which one does the stupidest crap first in the game. That's probably what that football game will be. Great Saturday night game. I think it'll be a blast.
What is the spread on that, by the way?
It's right at 13 and a half. 14. Yeah.
So what's Nebraska? I wrote that in Illinois.
So I like that to be a good game. The bet I like the most in that game is the under, because I feel like it could be, somewhat of a close, sloggy game that stays under the game total. Or I think there's a chance Purdue wins that like 38-13, where they basically just shut down Nebraska's offense. I mean, people forget, but Nebraska was shut out the entire first half versus Rutgers. And Rutgers has got a good defense. But not that good, not shut out, the team good. And I think Purdue actually has about as good of a defense as Rutgers does. And certainly they have a lot better offense than Rutgers. So maybe the bet is actually just taking Purdue to cover the 13 or 14. I don't know.
I don't like it because I was more confident in Purdue covering before we had the podcast. And then afterwards, when you made the comment that Purdue hasn't put anybody away, that makes me nervous about a 14-point spread, but I could see, I could see Purdue running away with it. What makes me nervous is I don't think that those two teams are on the same level, but Nebraska is playing with a lot of confidence. They're going on the road, which I think sometimes teams play a little bit looser. So that's what
their bubble gets broken
as opposed to the line on that.
Yeah, I think their bubble gets burst this week.
No,
They got to play an Indiana team that was a get right game, and a little confidence after that. But it's time to come back to reality now.
I agree with you, Jim. If you put a gun to my head, that is my take. And then the second I say that, I think about Purdue doing something silly. Some decision that Braum makes late in the game. On a play call, like, why would you be aggressive there, throw it there, something like that. And it leads to a pick six or something, fumble six or something like that. Because it's both turnovers and penalties that has prevented Purdue from being, I mean, let's be honest, they should be 6-0 right now without penalties or turnovers, excuse me. So I like teams show we're halfway through the season. Like, these teams have shown their personality at this point, so like there's no witch doctor, no lobotomy that's coming for these teams at this point. For the most part, this is who they are. So it just makes me skittish picking Purdue to cover.
Here's what would be interesting about that game especially if it's a close game. You saw what happened in that Syracuse game. Purdue isn't very good about letting the other team just talk and letting it go. And I don't know that there's a team that has more confidence with their mouth than Nebraska. I'm being serious. That could be a factor in that game late.
That is a phenomenal point. I wish I could suddenly now bet the over/under on how many personal foul calls there are in this game. That is something to watch for this game. That is a great point, Diaz.
And this game is, what's the spread on that game again?
Right around 13.5.
13.5. So, yeah, that's going to be just fun. With Minnesota and Illinois, that is going to be – does Minnesota have their quarterback?
Yeah, Minnesota has their quarterback. Illinois is who I don't think they'll have their starter touchdown, Tommy DeVito.
Oh my God! How do you not? Minnesota's a 6.5 point underdog. How do you just not
favorite? They're a favorite.
Oh, they're minus 6
favorite.
Even
and
that.
It's at Illinois as well. Hey, the Illinois defense has not allowed a touchdown at their house this entire year. Now,
who have they played at home?
Not the greatest teams, but dude, that defense has looked good pretty much all year long.
Did they give up rushing touchdowns to Indiana?
I mean, their second game of the year on the road.
The worst rushing team in Division I football. I don't
remember.
I'm messing.
The game-winning touchdown was Deshaun Shriver's run up the middle.
It was a 1 yard run. I'm just messing, man.
Right. But I think the stats speak for themselves. You don't get 6 games in the season, and they're number 1 in scoring defense and number 2 in rushing. I mean, it's all over the place. So that's why in quite honestly, I think it's kind of crazy how high the spread is to a certain degree. But I think people Art Sikowski is the quarterback that'll step in for Tommy DeVito, and I think that's what the line is showing you.
Dustin?
Yeah, I agree. Both of these teams have given up 20 points or more one time through 6 games. They're through 11 games total, I guess. So I just can't – I think that's going to hold true, and I think the difference is going to be the fact that Illinois doesn't probably have its starting quarterback. But I still don't like either team to break 20, so it's hard for me to I would bet the under on this game, and I would bet Illinois to cover the spread. I don't know that they're going to win, but I just don't see a lot of points in this game. So the under seems like the best bet. I think my total, the over-under was 39. I think I had them at 35 or 36 points in that game. I really like the under there.
And I've seen numerous people across, guys that I follow and shows that I've watched that aren't Big Ten guys, and they're picking the under as well. People are on this under. They understand how good these defenses are, how limited the Illinois offense is. So I actually picked Illinois to win this, Minnesota to win this game 20-13, which is a half-point cover for Minnesota. But more I look at it, I feel better about the under than I do either one of these teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, my app doesn't let me bet like the under and the spread in a parlay.
In a single game.
Oh, it is allowing that. It is allowing that. Never mind. So I took the under and mini mouse.
So you took the under. You took the under, but Minnesota to cover.
Yes.
All right, that's kind of dancing between the raindrops there. Good luck.
Well, or I can just take them to win.
That's one way to do it.
Money line would probably be safer.
Money line and under would be the way I'd do it.
Indiana hosting Maryland, where the Hoosiers are an 11.5 point underdog at home. New offensive line coach Rod Carey, who is no stranger to college football, to offensive lines, to Indiana, to the Big Ten. If you're going to make a move, which they needed to do this a long time ago, I will say this was a good move by Tom Allen.
Absolutely. Shout out
too damn long.
Shout out to head coaches that will make changes mid-season to try to improve upon a offensive unit. Anyways, I digress. I tell you what, my spidey sense is going off on this game. I think Tom Allen is going to have them ready to play. It's a home game, second home game in a row. Maryland is gettable. They're good. I think Maryland is overall a better football team than Indiana, but they're gettable. I think Indiana really wants to make a bowl game. I think they're obviously smart enough to know that if they would happen to lose this game, the chances of getting to a bowl have decreased by a lot. I think Maryland's going to get all they can handle from the Hoosiers tomorrow.
I agree and disagree. I just think when I look at this, and I've made this comment on every podcast, every radio show I've done, I just think that this is a worse matchup for Indiana's defense than Michigan because I think they can throw it around. I don't think Indiana's secondary is very good. I think we've gotten to a point in the season where you expected if it's going to turn around, it would turn around by now. It hasn't. They're just not good. And I don't trust them against Maryland's receivers, against Talia. And I just still think I feel like Mike Locksley just really hasn't put his foot on the throat yet. He hasn't had that opportunity. And like I said, 3 or 4 plays in, I expect Maryland to take a shot 50 yards down the field, try to set the tone. And I think that after that, I think Maryland can kind of run away with this. So I don't know. I agree. I think Indiana's going to show fight. I just think the matchup and the scheme is so advantageous for the Terps that I just don't know that Indiana's going to stick around.
I agree with all those points, hence the 11-point line. In my mind, that's Vegas saying the same thing. Like, how about 11? They don't know. So, that's where, to me, it's just when I see those goofy 11 to 12 and a half, that's the goofy range, 11 to 12 and a half. I swear somebody should do a study on no matter the teams, no matter who's playing where, how many times the 11 to 12 and a half dog team covers just because of that silly, ridiculous line. That's just the degenerate gambler in me. That's why I'm taking Indiana and those goofy points.
Oh, you are. So you're taking the Hoosiers and the 11 and a half.
Yep.
There you go. So
yeah,
surprise. Well, they shocked a lot of people last week against the number 4 team in the country, playing Michigan as a 22.5-point underdog.
I think people are poo-pooing that a little too much. I know it was but Sleepy Bloomington effect on Michigan to a certain degree. Certainly Michigan had that weird situation on the sidelines with Mike Hart. I do think those things play. Don't get me wrong, but on my second watch, I mean, I really do like Indiana's offensive coordinator. A better offensive
on him this year.
No, a better offensive line, maybe a little bit better quarterback. And I think there's even more points and maybe even a win on the board for Indiana. But Maryland is not so great defensively that Indiana can't take shots. So I got a lot of points in this game. I got 40-30 Maryland Indiana, which is a 1-point cover for Indiana. But
really?
Does Maryland have no
defense?
I mean, it's okay.
Zero defense.
It's okay.
Their pass rush is not great, so Indiana's poor offensive line might be able to keep them. Might be able to keep Connor Bays, give him a little bit more time. As Mitchell said, he might get 3 seconds instead of 2.5.
Hey, that could make a big difference right there.
62 points on the over and under.
Sometimes you gotta love life, and just
let it ride, let it fly, baby.
As they say, life's too short to bet the under. So I don't know. This would be a fun one to see if you can push it over.
Open the cage and let that eagle fly.